Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Systeme.io podcast with me, Natasha Pinto. Join us as we discuss all things digital marketing and entrepreneurship. Here, online business owners take us on a journey how they went from zero to launch. If you're starting your journey here with Systeme, you've already taken a pretty smart first step. So joining me today is Simon Coulson. He is the CEO and founder of the Internet Business School. He's also a keynote speaker with global experience, and he shared the stage with some really big names. And he's also the best-selling author of Intrepreneur. So hi, Simon.
Hello there, how you doing?
I'm all right, thanks, and yourself?
Very good, very good.
Okay, so you've got quite an interesting and broad set of titles that I've mentioned there. So I'm sure our listeners would be very interested to see how you got started.
Sure. So it all started a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago. So I left school at 18, went to work for the phone company here in UK, in London, BT, and worked there for 14 years. And in my spare time, I actually played in like a wedding band. And then in 2003, we just had this crazy idea that instead of just being another wedding band, we're going to become a tribute band to like a sort of bigger band, and we chose Coldplay. So we became the first tribute band to Coldplay in the UK in 2003, and that just went crazy. It was when Coldplay were getting really big, and we started getting 2 gigs a week with this band. And I suddenly realized that this band paid me more than my day job did working for BT, like working 9 till 6 every day, 2-hour commute just to get to work, 2 hours home every day. And at this time as well, BT announced a redundancy scheme. So they're looking for volunteers to leave the company with a little payout. And I'm like, wow, this is great. I've got my spare job lined up and they're offering me a little chunk of money to go. So the whole internet thing happened completely by accident, because the original plan was it was a lifestyle choice. I'd worked in the city 14 years and thought, I'm just going to be a musician. It's a much more fun job to have, to be a musician. So I volunteered for redundancy, left BT, and started doing the gigs with the band as the sort of main income, but that was pretty much Friday and Saturday nights. So the rest of the week I was bored. So I started looking around at another little business I could start, something that I could do. And one of the things that I'd done with my redundancy money, it wasn't a huge amount of money. It was just under, well, it's a reasonable amount now, I suppose. It was just under £20,000 I got after 14 years of service. And I actually invested £12,000 in a tour bus for the band to get us to all these gigs all around the country. So I literally had about £7,000 left in the bank account. And I was looking at investing in property and thought that'd be a sensible thing to do. But I couldn't afford to buy property with £7,000, except I read about buying property in Bulgaria and found that you could buy property in Bulgaria for £5,000. So I'd have change from my life savings. And it was being tipped as a good investment because Bulgaria was just about to join the European Union. So on a bit of a whim, me and my friend decided we were going to fly out to Sofia in Bulgaria and go and look at some properties in a couple of weekends' time. So we booked the flights, it was all set. And then just a couple of days before we went to Sofia, I got a call for the band, cancellation to come up. Could you do a gig this weekend? I'm like, yeah, of course. Because the EasyJet flights to Bulgaria were like 50 quid and the gig was paying 2,000 quid. So it was like easy choice. Yeah. So I let my friend know and he said, well, I'm going to go anyway. So I said, okay, well, you go and have a look, tell me what it's like. And he got out there and he phoned me up and said, mate, it's amazing. He said, it's crazy. You can buy these houses like outright for under £5,000. He said, but there are literally Brits queuing up at the estate agents, waiting for a local to walk in to put their house on the market. And then they follow them to the house and have an auction and buy the house like there and then. It's like, this is just like mad. Said, so while I'm here, do you want me to get one for you as well? Rather than waiting for a few weeks till you've got a weekend to come out here, I could just get one for you now. I'm going to buy one. I'm like, all right, then, yeah, just get me a house. So crazy. But I sent him my money and bought a house in Bulgaria, having never seen it, having never stepped foot in the country. But inadvertently, this led me to my first internet business because I started, telling friends down at pub, I just bought a house in Bulgaria. And to start off with, they were like, why? And I started explaining like why it was a good investment, about how it was about to join the EU, had a very stable government, low inflation. And by the end of the conversation, people were like, oh, where do I find out more about these Bulgarian properties then? So I just had this aha moment. I thought, well, I could write a book on buying property in Bulgaria. I'm an expert. I've bought one. I've never stepped foot in the country, but I've read a lot on the internet. So I wrote a book, an ebook called The Bulgaria Property Guide, and started selling it. Made a simple web page, literally a one-page wonder. Just got an HTML theme as it was in those days, and just did a little bit of basic. I mean, I look at it now, it looks horrendous, but it worked. Made a simple web page, and I started driving some traffic to this web page, and I started reading up about SEO, search engine optimization, and tried a few things out and put in my meta keyword tags and wrote a couple of articles and sent them out to article directories. And amazingly, I got this web page on the first page of Google for phrases like Bulgaria property, Bulgaria investment, buy property in Bulgaria. And I guess one of the smart things I did was I made the title of the web page, "Don't Buy in Bulgaria." So when people saw it in a Google listing, they just saw this thing that said, "Don't buy it in Bulgaria." And of course, it's like clickbait. They're like, well, why not? They were thinking of buying. That's what they were Googling phrases about. And they clicked on it. And then it got to the page. It said, "Don't buy it in Bulgaria until you read our comprehensive guide on everything you need to know about buying in Bulgaria." So it's like a bit of bait and switch, really. And I started selling 20 copies of this little ebook a day for £20 a copy. So it's like £400 a day from my first ever attempt at internet marketing, passive recurring income. I thought, wow, this is brilliant. I'm liking this. So I did another one. I then did the Croatia property guide, just based on exactly the same principle of researching everything there was to know about buying property in that country. And really, I liken it to, like, if you've ever been to university doing a dissertation, it's like you're given a topic, you've got to research the hell out of it and write about it. And that's all I was doing. I was just researching and summarizing and writing up. So I did Croatia, Slovakia, Slovenia. Then I did the more mainstream investment places like Turkey and Florida and Italy and France and Portugal. So I actually did 34 property investment guides. I made my first million online from, basically, I call it recycling. It was all information that was out there in the public domain, and I was just rewriting it. But the thing was, it was taking me probably 70 to 100 hours of research to put one of these guides together. And really what people were buying wasn't as much the information, because they could find it for free themselves online. They were buying the time saving, because it would take them 100 hours to find all the same stuff out, or they give me £20 and get all the information straight away. So it was like no brainer for them, especially if they're about to invest 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 in a overseas property. What's £20 as an investment for a bit of due diligence and to understand more about it? So that's how I got started with these property investment guides. Eventually, I ran out of countries. So I'd covered all the countries that Brits were looking at investing in. So then I had to think of something else. And I had a friend who had a cleaning business. So I thought, well, maybe people buy guides on investing in property. Maybe they might buy a guide on how do you run a cleaning business. So I did a guide on that. It started selling. Had another friend who had a hairdresser. So we did a guide on how do you set up a hairdresser business. So it kind of just snowballed, and the topics I've done are just huge and varied, from growing bonsai trees to car mechanics to plastering, bricklaying. I just started going through topics that people were Googling for and searching for. And then the process was basically either I'd write a guide on it, or I'd pay a freelancer researcher to go and write a guide on it. Or I'd find an expert in that industry and I would just interview them or film them. For the plumbing one, I just filmed a plumber doing plumbing and made a plumbing course out of it. So a whole series of different how-to guides on all sorts of stuff. And the internet empire was kind of born. And after a couple of years of doing this, a good friend of mine, actually the guy who was the drummer in my band, he was actually a firefighter. And he asked me, what I was doing. He could see I was making crazy amounts of money. He's like, how are you doing this? What's this internet thing? So it's quite simple. You just like find a topic that people don't know about, turn it into some sort of info product, and you sell it. He's like, oh, I'd like a piece of this. Like, do you think I could do it? It's like, yeah, of course. So I sat down with him, and obviously he'd been a firefighter for 10 years. So we just did a guide on how to become a firefighter. And he just wrote a guide on how to get the job that he'd been doing, made a little web page, and it started selling. So he said, what do I do now? I said, just do loads more of the same. So then he did how to become a police officer, paramedic, airline pilot, train driver. So he's done a business now that's done over 100 career guides. So he was like massively successful. And then other people got wind of what I was doing, and it became, if I saw people out, I'd be like, oh, oh, I hear you're making all this money from Bulgaria property. Like, tell me all about it. And I started informally like coaching other people. And after a couple of years, I thought I could actually have another business here, teaching what I'd been sort of self-teaching myself to do, showing other people to do. So that was the birth of the Internet Business School after about 3 years, and started delivering training courses in how to make money online.
That's amazing. It's one hell of a journey as well. Sheesh. It's such a varied amount of things that you've written these guides for, created these courses for, and that's impressive. And I think, yeah, you're not selling the guide to how to do this. You're selling them the 100 hours that they don't have to spend working really, really hard to find all that information for themselves. So it's quite brilliant. And then could you crunch some numbers for me? So you said you made your first million out of the property guides.
Yeah.
How is your current business doing?
So overall, I've done over 25 million in online sales since I started. So it's been kind of good. Yeah, it's not too bad. So as the business is now turn over a couple of million a year. So I've got lots of sort of spin-off things. I've started another business in the music industry, actually teaching music. It's great. You know, it's lovely having that that kind of work-life balance back, and having an online business. Thoroughly recommend it.
Okay, brilliant. And then what kind of obstacles have you dealt with during your journey? What was one of the things that kind of got in the way?
Sure. So there's a great expression I love, which is you're either earning or you're learning. So, you know, not everything's plain sailing. Sometimes things don't go right. So I think one of the early things that the first few products that I created just based on demand, in terms of there was search traffic on those terms and there wasn't much competition. So I thought it's definitely going to sell. There's people looking for it. There's nothing out there. I'll do a guide on that. It'll sell. And one of the topics that my research led me to quite early on was actually speed dating. And there were loads of searches around speed dating terms. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do a guide on speed dating, because actually the guys in the band three of them had all got divorced in the sort of previous couple of years. And they'd all been on these speed dating events, and they had these hilarious tales and strategies. So for example, you know, if anyone listening not familiar with speed dating, basically it's where you go along, you have lots of short little dates, a couple of minutes, a little conversation with someone, asking a few questions, they ask you a few questions, and then you get a little form and you tick the boxes of the ones that you like. So you might like number 1, number 7, and number 12. And if they reciprocate with a tick, then you then arrange to meet up and have a drink or meal or whatever afterwards. So the guys in the band had some interesting strategies about how to maximize the number of ticks. So for example, one of them would always dress very smartly and wear his best suit, because he figured if he looks smart, it looks like, you know, he's more respectable, might get more ticks. Whereas one of the others had a completely opposite strategy, and he would wear his worst jeans and his worst ripped t-shirt. And his mindset was, this is how I normally look at the weekends. If they don't like this look, there's no point in them ticking a box and us wasting time going on a few dates, because this is me. Now, one of them, who I won't name, but I may have mentioned him already. So he had a job that involved wearing a white shirt with the little epaulette bits on the shoulders. So one day he went to one of these speed date events and he came straight from work. So he was wearing the white shirt with the little bits on the shoulders. And the first girl he sat down to said, "Oh, are you an airline pilot?" And he could see that she looked really excited by the prospect he might be an airline pilot. So he just went with it and he went, yeah, I'm a pilot, yeah. And then, of course, then he thought, after the first one, he thought, oh my God, at half time, all these girls, like we stop and they all have a little chat with each other and they compare notes. So the fact that I've told the first one I'm a pilot, I'm going to have to tell them all tonight I'm a pilot. So he kept it up for the whole evening, but he got his best score ever. You know, he got like 10 out of 15 matches or something. She's like, okay, this is the way forward. Just tell him you're a pilot. So I'd heard all these little funny stories about, you know, what should you tell him your day job was? What should you wear? And one of the questions that often the girls asked was, have you got any tattoos? And they realized quite early, because one of them had a few tattoos, one had one tattoo, one had no tattoos. And they realized that the right answer to that question actually depended on if the girl had any tattoos very often. Because if she's got tattoos, that means she likes tattoos. If the guy's got tattoos too, that's like more likely to get the tick. But if she hasn't got any tattoos, that might mean she doesn't like tattoos. And if you say yes to that question, you're not going to get the tick. So they realized that the way around this was to get in early with that question. So they needed to ask the girl first, have you got any tattoos, to know how to answer when the same question came back at them. So one of them's strategy was to open with that question. Instead of saying, oh, hi, what's your name? Or where do you work? Or what do you do for a living? It was like, got any tattoos? And I just found this whole thing hilarious. And I just thought, I bet girls are having these same conversations about, oh, another question the girls would always ask the guys is, do you like football? And that was like a secret coded question for, are you going to be like getting drunk with your mates every Saturday watching the game? So I thought, this is a great topic. This would be brilliant. So I'm going to do an ebook on speed dating tips for guys and girls. So I got a freelance researcher guy and a girl to both research the speed dating game from their relative perspectives and sort of deliver me the ultimate guide to speed dating. Put together this great guide, made a web page, started driving traffic, and nobody bought it. I got all these people going to the webpage and no one was buying. And I was like, couldn't figure this out because there was loads of search traffic. But what I learned was that just because the search traffic doesn't mean people are willing to spend money on it. And I guess it's a topic with hindsight, the people thought, you know what, I expect dating information, dating tips to come for free. It's not like if I'm thinking of buying a house, I'm investing money, so I'm willing to spend £20 on some advice. If I'm looking to reskill as a new career as a police officer or a plumber, I'm willing to spend £20 because I'm going to get a new job paying me $30,000 a year. But for dating, it was like the tangible benefits were, I mean, potentially they were there, but, you know, a bit down the road and not guaranteed. So it didn't sell. So I'd wasted money paying 2 freelancers to write this guide and it didn't work. So I ended up giving this guide away for free. And what I did to monetize it was I just loaded it with affiliate links. So I found dating sites and speed dating event companies and put their affiliate links within the guide. So actually, I eventually recouped what I'd spent on the freelance researchers just from affiliate revenue. But I guess the key lesson I learned there was one of the strategies we teach on our courses now, which is to do your research first. And what we call a flycatcher approach. Whenever I've got an idea for a new product or a new course, what I always try doing now is I try selling it first before I make it. So it's relatively easy to do. All you need to do is make a web page that describes the course, lists the modules that are going to be in the course, lists the price. And then when someone goes to buy the product, of course, you can't sell it to them because it doesn't exist yet. So you take them to a second page that just says, sorry, we're just updating this guide at the moment. Leave your name and email address and we'll let you know as soon as the new version is ready. And of course, the new version is going to be version 1. You haven't written it yet. You're just trying to get a level of demand from the audience first. So it was a lesson to learn, but actually meant that I never backed another horse that didn't win again, because every product after that, I'd always done that extra level of research to make sure there was demand before I wasted time either paying a researcher or researching something myself.
Okay. Oh, that's brilliant. And then you've got another way to save some wasted time for our listeners, I hear. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so over the years of teaching, we taught thousands of people how to set up their own internet business, and I'm very pleased to say we've created loads of millionaires from internet businesses as well, which is great. But what I've realized is that it's different people are suited to different kinds of internet business. So for example, affiliate marketing is something that you don't need to leave your house to do. You don't really need to talk to anyone to do. You can literally find an affiliate program, sign up, and then generate some traffic. Whereas if you want to do digital marketing consultancy, that's quite a people skills business where you need to meet with business owners, understand their needs, present, stand out with a PowerPoint presentation maybe. So you need much better interpersonal skills to be an internet marketing consultant than you do to be an affiliate marketer. And if you're a kind of researchy person, then creating your own products can be great. That's how I got started, because I just found it really easy to go and give me a topic, I can write a book on it. I could just go away and research and read all of it to know about it and summarize it and put it together. But if writing and researching isn't your thing, then probably creating products isn't your thing either. So what we did was we kind of worked out a set of structured questions to ask people about their personality, but also their knowledge and expertise and their prior experience, and also their contacts. Because it might be that if you know someone who's an expert in a field, There's an obvious thing that they could create the product that's a course on something and you could sell it. So you're leveraging your network. So we created a tool, and basically what it does is it gives you a kind of scorecard, and it scores you as a percentage suitability for being an affiliate marketer or a marketing consultant or a product creator, etc. So I think it's broken down to 5 different categories and gives you a score. Yeah, that's available at whichinternetbusiness.co.uk. So if anybody wants to try that tool out, just head along to whichinternetbusiness.co.uk and put your details in, and it'll give you a score for each category and tell you what would be best suited to you.
Oh, fantastic. I will put that link in the show notes and tags as well. Brilliant. Okay. And
Cool.
Then are there any trends that you noticed in digital marketing? Because you've mentioned affiliate marketing and the kinds of people who are suited to that, and then marketing consultancy. Is there anything you see happening going forwards?
Yeah, I think one of the big changes, I guess, has been the sort of cost of acquisition of customers. So when you're marketing now, yeah, in the early days when I got started, I was in the heady days of 1p clicks, with Google advertising, for example. So you could buy traffic for a penny a click. You get 100 targeted people to your website for £1. So, as long as you can convert like 1%, you couldn't really help but make money. But now, of course, paid advertising, pay-per-click with Google has gone up a fair bit, and you'll be spending 50p, 70p, a pound a click in some niches. So that cost of acquisition's gone up, which means that you really need a sales funnel. You need some back-end higher ticket products to make it work. You can't really launch a business and certainly use paid traffic just to sell a £10, £20 product and make money. You need a higher ticket back-end product, or you need a traffic source. And one of the things we've moved to this year with a couple of the businesses I've got is doing the challenge model, it's known, where you do we've just done one this week for my music business, a 5-day songwriting challenge, where we've done a webinar a day over 5 days, and it's cost £5 to enter the challenge. And the challenge is to kind of learn how to write songs, basically. So we get 5 experts, 5 different days, 5 webinars. It's only £5 entry point. So that just gets people in. It's like a little taster mini course, really. And then from there, we upsell the next course, which is a $250 course, which is a 3-day course. And that works really, really well. We've had 1,000 people on the challenge. And then the upsells onto the $300 work really well too. So I think that model's working great. We're doing that in the Internet Business School as well. So I think, business models have evolved, whereas it used to be, you could make money just with a low price, £10, £20 info product, and then people have done higher priced info products. And I think now we're moving to a sort of low ticket entry product, but really that leads you into higher ticket products. And it's just a numbers game, knowing your conversions at each price point to make money on the back end. Okay,
definitely. That's some excellent advice. And I think a lot of people will implement that model. I know the challenge model works really well in all sorts of industries, fitness industries especially. They use that quite often. And then what about the influence of social media on digital marketing? Because everyone assumes that it's this glorious, untouched land of leads, but is it really?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It almost feels to me like it's gone a bit full circle in my internet career, because when I started, I feel old now, but Facebook, I think got started like a year or two after I got started online. So when I started, there were really only 2 options for traffic. It was you either learn SEO and you got natural organic rankings, or you paid for ads with Google AdWords. That was like your 2 ways of getting traffic. But obviously we've had Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Pinterest and all these things come along in the meantime. And, often, they're great to monetize at first. And then like Facebook, for example, in the early days or the medium term, I had businesses that got lots of traffic for free from there. But then, everyone knows that the exposure now for an organic post, even if you've built a group or a page, you post to it and hardly anybody sees it, because Facebook know that you'll be willing to pay for that. So your natural reach, has well since peaked, and now it's quite small unless you're willing to pay money. And if you spend money, you can still make it work. We've got positive ROI Facebook campaigns running now, but I can tell you the ROI ratio is definitely falling over time. So, whereas a couple of years ago, you might have got a 10x return on your Facebook advertising investment, at the start of the year, that might have been a 3x, and probably now it's a 2x for some of our things, literally. So just in this year with the iOS 14 changes and stuff, it's already going backwards. And it's going to be interesting because I think we're going to get to the point where that might mean that it's almost impossible to make advertising on social give you positive ROI at the front end. It's going to come later, so you're going to be a loss leader effectively. You're going to spend money to acquire a customer. What you sell them isn't going to cover what you spent on marketing, but because of a percentage of those people who buy your higher end products later on, or you can monetize them as a repeat customer at a low price point weekly or whatever. So it's interesting how I think it feels already like in some industries, it's the bigger companies that are, they've got deeper pockets than the bank balance so they can afford to cash flow that business model. And I think it's harder now for startups trying to kind of bootstrap a business because you might have to invest money up front that you're not going to see back for a few months. And you need to feed the cash in marketing and not get it back for a few months down the road. So it's harder, I guess. So I think social's still great. And there are, things like TikTok. If you can come up with something great, we've had some people have some crazy success with TikTok. Literally create a video where someone get like 500,000 views on a TikTok video in a day with a brand new account. So crazy things like that can still happen. And that's still great. But give another example, Rick, who I mentioned earlier, who's the firefighter who did his career guy, I've been a firefighter, they did police officer, paramedic. So he started a YouTube channel and just started doing free videos on career advice and interview techniques. And it's been quite a slow burn, but 2 years ago, he decided he was going to actually create a new video every single day. Only a short video, like 5 minutes, but he was just going to pick a topic and just do a little video to camera on hints and tips around interview questions and careers advice. And he's been just doing that regularly. And what's really interesting is that that YouTube's algorithm seems really biased in favor of regular content creators. So what we've seen is the growth of that channel has literally gone exponential over the last 2 years. So he just hit 1 million subscribers last week.
Sure.
And now, so 1 million subscribers, about 3 to 4 million views per month on the channel. And of course, that generates loads of traffic to the website that sells the career guides, because these videos are all about career advice, interviews, etc., and they plug the career guides themselves. So this has now become a great free traffic source. And in fact, it's even better than free because YouTube pay you as the channel owner advertising revenue.
Yep.
So last month, that check for it was $38,000.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So just with that, you know what, that tenacity that I'm going to make a video a day in a couple of years has got to the point of 1 million subscribers, a few million views per month, which results in a few 100,000 uniques to the website, which is a few tens of thousands of sales to the website, unit sales, not pounds, plus a nice check for 38 grand a month for advertising revenue. So it's like, wow, that's free, that's right now. And it's better than free. It's like being paid for a boatload of traffic from YouTube. So that's great. And it's like we're now rolling that out into our Songwriter Academy business and actually putting lots of content out for that channel now to kind of build that one up as well. So yeah, I think there's still money to be had out there. It just evolved. It kind of feels like Facebook's a bit dying now as a traffic source, but YouTube very much is brilliant, and things like TikTok are brilliant too. So like all these things, and in a couple of years' time, we'll be talking about another social platform that doesn't even exist yet. It just migrates over time, doesn't it? As my lifetime, we've had MySpace and Friends Reunited and those sort of sites. They've just been and gone. They had a lifespan. For whatever reason, they fell out of popularity and disappeared.
Yeah, and have been replaced by the next set, and like Instagram getting replaced by TikTok and all the videos. Okay. So then one question. So you've mentioned your music business, and that kind of sounds a bit more like it's a passion project rather than just strictly the online business. So how do you maintain your work-life balance? How do you keep all those balls in your court and rolling correctly?
Yeah, it's a good question. So as I sit here now, I've actually got 13 companies that I run. So I love business, and I kind of, serial entrepreneur. I've done lots of businesses, lots of different niches. And the music has always been there in the background for me. And one of the reasons I started the training business in the music industry was actually because I went on a songwriting retreat holiday and just got chatting to the guy that was organising it. And actually, the conversation started because I thought I was going to upsell him on my training course. I thought he needs a bit better internet marketing. So I got chatting about marketing and how he sells places on this retreat. And he said, well, I said, how many of these do you do? And he says, oh, I do one a year. And I always struggle to sell the 12 tickets to it. So I'm like, oh, you need an internet marketing course. We can help with that. And I thought I was going to sell him some training. But he was like real pushback on it. He was like, no, I'm too creative. I don't want to learn about SEO and AdWords and any of that stuff. I just love making music, I said, well, maybe there's a joint venture we could have there. Maybe I could get involved and do the business and the marketing side and you can run the courses. What do you say? And he was up for it. So we started the business in 2014 as a songwriting academy. And it's been an absolute blast. And it's meant I've got to have that perfect mix of business and pleasure, because instead of so that year I paid to go on a songwriting retreat. The next year I got paid to attend 4 songwriting retreats because we did 4 the next year, and I now co-own the business, so I'm earning to be in the same environment up a mountain in Spain writing songs with #1 hit writers. So it's kind of also it's fast-tracked my education in the music biz, because I've just played in cover bands and tribute stuff. I've never really written my own music, but through doing that started writing my own music over the last couple of years. And then when lockdown happened last year and we couldn't run songwriting retreats, I thought, well, I've got all these songs that I've written on songwriting retreats. Let's professionally record them and release them and do an album. So I did an album that came out in January of songs that I'd written on these songwriting retreats. And it was great because they're all songs that I'd co-written with our customers effectively, who are all, unsigned singer-songwriters, want to make it in the music biz. So I did an album in January and got to #2 in the iTunes singer-songwriter album chart, which was like awesome. But it's awesome for me. But I love the fact that it meant there's actually 22 other co-writers on the album. So they've all got a song that's on a #2 album as well. So it was great for them. And then I've just had a blast this year learning how to make music videos. So I'm the sort of person who just loves to roll my sleeves up and do stuff. And I got a quote for someone to make me a music video for the first release. It's like, yeah, that's quite a lot. I could probably just do it myself. So I just had a go and I thought, yeah, this is all right. So I've made lots of videos and I've been hiring churches and string quartets and things and just making music videos and just having a blast with it this year. And now I actually feel like I'm in it's almost like it's gone full circle. Like when I started on the internet, I knew nothing about websites or traffic, and I had to learn everything from scratch. And now I'm almost in that journey again in the music industry. So I'm now learning, how does a music artist break themselves in 2021? So yeah, because there's no record companies anymore. It's just straight onto the platforms. So it's great. I've got all my songs out there on iTunes and Spotify, but now I'm like, so how do you get on the radio and how do you get on Spotify playlists? So I'm now in a great learning phase of just teaching myself and learning and finding all that stuff out. And guess what? If I figure it out, there'll be a course on it for sure, because I know there's a load of people that want to know how to do it too. But it's just great fun. I'm loving it. And I've, since January, I've got 2 million views on the videos that I've created on YouTube. So that's been fab. I've got about 350,000 listeners on Spotify. So it's great. It's going well, but there's still a long way to go. I'd love to do a tour with that and, put a show on the road and actually do original music and do that. So that's the goal probably for next year when this COVID stuff's out of the way. So right now, just building the stream. So if anyone wants to listen, just Simon with 2 I's, SIIMON.com. Go check out the music, have a listen. Go to Spotify, make sure you press the little heart button. That helps the algorithm, as I'm finding out. So and go to YouTube, search me out on YouTube, Simon with 2 I's. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos. That all helps the YouTube stuff too. And that's the way I do it.
That's awesome. And I'll pop those tags in the show notes as well. So then some short, quick questions. What is one book or podcast or resource that you would recommend to our listeners, like a great place to start?
Oh, okay. So I think a great book I read is The 4-Hour Workweek.
Everyone loves that one.
A great book. And I read that when I was a few years into the journey, and it's almost like this book is like what I've just been doing. So it was kind of like, but it was the same mindset, so that was a great read for me. Loved that book. Obviously, my book's amazing, Intrepreneur. That's probably the best book out there. So yeah, get that one. That's brilliant. But joking aside, what I did with that book was I sort of documented my journey from, so you asked a question about the mistakes. There's quite a few funny stories in there about the mistakes along the way that I made, probably including the speed dating one. But also in that book, every chapter I put a case study of one of my students that had built a successful online business, because I thought that would be inspiring to people as well. So it's a great read. And if you look hard enough, you find it for free on the internet. So it's not going to cost you anything. Yeah, so that's good too. Who else? There's a guy called Dan Kennedy, who's an American marketer. He's got a series of books on like sales and marketing. And I learned a lot about marketing and the whole process of marketing and sales copy and that sort of stuff from those books. Another one I recommend is Robert Cialdini, who is a kind of professor, mad scientist, researcher kind of guy. And he's done a lot on sales psychology and what actually makes people buy and the language that you use. Loads of fascinating sort of case study, blind tests that he's done with people, just finding out how subtle change in how you phrase something or word something can make people more likely to buy or not. So he's got a couple of books, Influence and another one, I can't remember, but check him out, Robert Cialdini.
Brilliant. And then is there one piece of advice you would give your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, don't go and get a job working for a phone company in the big city. But joking aside, I think, when I was a kid, you're very much conditioned to go and get a job. The reason I worked for BT was it was drummed into me, go and get a job with like the biggest company you can, because that's more likely to be the safest job. So, it was a job for life. If you worked for the phone, the national phone company, that's a job for life, and you're going to get a pension and you're never going to get made redundant. So that's kind of what was drummed into us. And starting your own business was such a high risk strategy that no one would advise it. But now, having started my own business, I found out actually it's great fun and it's not that hard. But also having the number of like graduates that have come through our courses that have gone and done a degree in something and realized the degree was a complete waste of time. And even those that have done a degree in a technology subject have found that by the time they leave in like year 4, the skills that they've got are now out of date, because what they learned in year 1, 3 years ago doesn't apply anymore. So it's a complete waste of time. I had one guy come on my course who was 22. He was in his first job. He'd done a degree in law because that's what his parents had told him to do, safe subject. So he'd got a job working for a company in the legal department, absolutely hated it. He'd seen me speak at a seminar. He came and did a course, learned about internet marketing, loved it. So he started internet marketing and he did a how-to guide. I think he had a brother that had become a holiday rep. So he did a guide on how to become a holiday rep. He had a sister that was a mobile hairdresser, so he had how to become a mobile hairdresser. And he started doing a few of his own guides. And then he left his day job and started his digital marketing agency. And now he's got a digital agency doing 3 million a year.
Oh, wow.
And starting from nothing, and he was at the millions per year in his 20s still. And it's like, so that whole 3 years he went to university and studied law was a waste of bloody time. And I've seen that so many students that I really don't think there's any point in going to university anymore. You're actually de-skilling yourself, because what you're learning is going to be out of date by the time you've finished. It used to be a differentiator 20 years ago, maybe, that only the smart people have got degrees, but so many people have got degrees now. I know when the shoe's been on the other foot and I've been interviewing, everyone's got a degree. So I'm only really interested if you've got a first-class degree or a master's degree. Because if you've just got a 2-1, it's like, so what? Everyone's got a 2-1 degree. It's like, doesn't even make you stand out anymore. So I guess advice to my 18-year-old self would be, which I didn't do anyway. I didn't go to university. I did go straight and get a job, but absolutely, don't go to university. And if you can, start a business. Start a business when you're still at school. I when I was at sixth form, I was doing up cars and selling cars. So I would, as soon as I was 17, I bought a car, I did it up and I sold it a month later, and then I bought another one. So while I was still at school, I was kind of trading up my car. But before that, I was doing newspaper rounds. I guess I've always had a bit of a sort of entrepreneur in me and always liked the idea of making money. But I think, for anyone young, then start making some money now. Start your own little business. It's never been easier. The great thing, this age we live in with the internet, I mean, When I was a kid, it was hard to start making money. We didn't have the internet, but now anyone could create a business selling anything to anyone, anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and it's even better because you've
Great
got
time to be alive.
platforms where you don't need to be a coding expert to set up a beautiful high converting page or to do all of this stuff. And there's guides out there that'll teach you how to do it step by step. So yeah, definitely, it's much easier to do it now than it ever was. Right. And then finally, where can our listeners find you? So you've mentioned your SIIMON for all of your music stuff, and then where to find you on YouTube. Where else can they find you? And I'll pop the tag.
So internetbusinessschool.com is our internet marketing training brand, and that has 46 different courses on different aspects of internet marketing on there. And for me, simoncoulson.com is my kind of corporate presence page. I think if you still go to Intrepreneur.com, which is the name of the book, you will find the book for free. So check out Intrepreneur.com as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Simon, for your time, for joining us. And thank you to our listeners today. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that 5-star rating and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on a podcasting platform, subscribe to the Systeme podcast so that you never miss an episode. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thanks.